This is the Savvy Investor radio show and podcast with Mike Kinnett and Ryan Herbert of ProStatus Financial, now celebrating 20 years helping families build successful retirements and lasting family legacies. Mike is a financial planner and estate planning attorney with a master's degree in tax and 4-time Amazon best-selling author. Ryan is a 5-star wealth management award winner and top-ranked financial advisor by Forbes. Now, the Savvy Investor radio show and podcast.
All right, so record government spending equals high taxes. We know that. Mike Kinnett, you always talk about that. But now record government spending is also sounding the alarm on Wall Street. Here is billion-dollar hedge fund manager Stanley Druckenmiller on CNBC. Check this out. I want you guys to comment on this here in a minute.
And it's just sad because I think we're looking at one of the most exciting periods in terms of potential productivity and enhancing investments ever. And why we're spending like we're still in the Great Depression is beyond me. We don't need spending right now. We just need the government to get out of the way and let the private sector do its thing.
See, Mike, and I see that you're just chomping at the bit here, but government is never really going to get out of the way. So what do we do here? The government spends, they're going to tax us more, and then you talk about the Trump tax cuts that are sunsetting at the end of 2025. It seems like we're in for a big shock here.
Well, absolutely. I think when people think about the Trump tax cuts going up, in their mind's eye, it doesn't seem like a lot because it goes from 25 to 28. But really the problem is the dollar amount in each of those brackets. That's the thing that's going to kill people. So people in the 22% tax bracket right now are going to experience the 28 to 33% tax bracket. People in the 12% tax bracket are going to be paying 15 to 25% taxes. That is a huge, huge jump going forward. And the reality is that, and I don't care if you lean left or right, I've said it 1,000 times to Sunday, when the Republicans are in control, they spend like drunken sailors and the Democrats complain. And then when the Democrats are in control, they spend like drunken sailors and the Republicans are complain. I mean, George Bush II put, $7 trillion on the deficit. Obama, close to $8 trillion. They did it in 8 years. Trump put $6 trillion in 4 years. Biden's put $4 or $5 trillion. And if whoever gets elected next, I promise you, I mean, I don't make very many promises definitely on the radio, but at the risk of getting myself in trouble, I promise the next knucklehead that gets elected is going to add to the deficit. And the problem is that, as a society, as people who vote, we all agree that our candidate has the best ideas and spends money wisely, but yet we go further and further and further in debt. So Ryan and I, we made the decision, 20 years ago when we started this practice. When I started this practice in 97, I was like, taxes are stupid. Why do people pay taxes? And so 1997, when I got into the business, I've been advocating, why do we opt into this tax system? Because the beautiful thing about it is the rules give us a choice, right? The rules allow us to choose what tax rates we want to pay. And we have a choice on how to arrange our affairs. I mean, dealing with these folks, Mary and her husband, they're actually out of New York, and they sold this huge campground. They bought this huge campground years and years and years ago, and they broke it up into lots, and they sold these huge campgrounds. And when they came to us, they had been listening to us on a podcast, and when they came to us, their concern was the taxes. And their CPA, it was insane. Their CPA sat down and said, "Oh yeah, just stroke a check for $1.2 million. That's what you're going to owe, the federal government. And you're going to, New York's not that much cheaper, so you're going to have to pay about $800,000 to New York, and we're just going to call it a day." And when they called me on the phone and said, "Hey, can we sit down and talk? We've heard you say there's some tax savings options and that we can opt out of some of these crazy tax plans." I said, "Yes, let's sit down and look at them." And we created a tax plan for them that basically said the selling of this property, the way we designed it, because of the rest of their income coming in, the income needs that we're going to have, the amount of money they were going to need is about $80,000 to $90,000 a year. And with that $80,000 to $90,000 a year that they were going to need, we were going to pay zero taxes on the sale of this business. I mean, we structured it in such a way because they chose to look at the options. And I don't care when tax rates change. The reason why Ryan and I have a job, the reason why we love what we do, yes, we're great about creating income. Yes, we're great about, investment strategies. Yes, we do all those things well. But it's all about the taxes at the end of the day. We design plans to keep you from losing that 20 to 30% right off the top. When you sat down with that advisor, when you sat down and created your income plan that you're doing now, You said to yourself, here's how much income you're going to have. And you never thought about, you never looked at it from the perspective of saying, wow, Mary didn't think to herself, well, I'm going to lose 20 to 30% of every dollar I try to earn. Every dollar I try to make to spend, I'm going to lose 20 to 30%. Imagine if you had an option of not losing that 20 to 30% to taxes each and every year. Why would you opt to give those guys 20 to 30%? Now, obviously, if you think the federal government and your state government are good spenders, if they're good stewards of your money and you agree with where they're spending it, you should continue paying those taxes. I have yet to meet a person who comes into my office and says, pick me. I want to spend more money. I want to give more of my money to Uncle Sam. Let's not try to be tax efficient. And if you're of the mindset that you understand and you agree with the fact that you should be paying the least amount of taxes legally possible, sit down with Ryan, myself, and our team. We're going to show you how to create income streams that you'll never outlive. That's very important. We're going to talk to you about how much you're paying in fees. That's important. We're going to talk to you about the risk you're taking. You're taking way too much. I can almost guarantee that. But here's what we can do. We can show you how to save $1 bazillion. And I know that's a big number, but tons of money. Just today, I was working with a woman this morning. Her current tax plan, because I asked for it, her current advisor has her paying about $500,000 in taxes over the next 15 years. And I showed her our plan, says you can pay $112,000 in taxes. You get a choice. She's all the way from down in Naples in Florida. You get a choice. And think about it. She doesn't even live in a taxable state. She has a choice. She can choose to go with the option. She's going to pay 112 over the next 15 to 20 years, or she can pay over 500,000. Why would you choose to pay $500,000 in taxes if you don't have to?
SavvyInvestorRadio.com. Again, that's the SavvyInvestorRadio.com front page there. Again, they made it very easy for you to connect with them and get started. Click on the tax analysis button, and that will get you in contact, and that'll get you a 15-minute phone conversation, to get things started. That way you can start taking the proper steps from there. Again, that's the SavvyInvestorRadio.com. You guys talk about the amount of money that we save on taxes. And Ryan, it's kind of crazy to me to think that we focus so much on the market and how much money we can lose on the market. And rightly so. If the market tanks, then we're in trouble. But if we don't do anything at all, we stand to lose 20 to 30% just on taxes. That, to me, seems like we need to be ringing the bell, sounding the alarm on that. We got to do something about taxes.
It's crazy because all people ever focus on when they're saving for retirement is they focus on their number. I want to have $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is. And then the whole time they're putting money in, they're looking at their tax return and saying, okay, well, I put 20 grand into my 401k. It reduced my taxes, this year by that $20,000 worth of income. Nobody ever thinks about the future. They don't think about future tax rates. They don't think about anything like that. It's just my number is $1 million. I want to get my retirement accounts to $1 million before I retire. Then I can call myself a millionaire.
And that guy that's attached to your 401k as the advisor, every year when he comes in to see you, or every 6 months when he comes into your place of business or picks up the phone and calls you, the advisor on your 401k, he probably is talking to you about those taxes, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he's not, if you've ever even heard from them. We have one on our plan. I personally know who he is, but I know he's never actually contacted our office. But people always focus on saving money now in taxes because that's when you're actually seeing the numbers. You always ask your tax person when they're doing your taxes, well, what can I do to get this number down? Well, it's too late. The year has passed. Nobody's ever thinking about the future. People are focused on that number. They're focused on the stock market going up. I made 20%, but more importantly, if the stock market drops, I'm going to lose 20 to 30%. They don't think about the fact that of that $1 million, you only own about $750,000 of it because the government owns the other half. One of the things that Mike and I and our team here at ProStatus that we focus on is helping you reduce the taxes in the future. It's very contrary to what you might think. We're going to pay taxes now more than you otherwise would without doing anything, but we're going to pay taxes now on your money by doing Roth conversions, getting this money out of your IRAs, out of your TSPs, out of your 401ks, out of your pre-tax retirement accounts, and move it over to Roth IRAs. That way, in the future, when we go to start taking money out, all that money is tax-free. And if we do the planning properly, like Mike and I have done for so many of our radio show and podcast listeners, we can get you down to that 0% tax bracket.
What's that like for someone? You guys put them on this plan. They're a married couple. They're going into retirement. And, obviously it's probably one of the most vulnerable times in our lives when we are retired, but they know that they have a tax plan. You've written it out for them. They're going to save, again, not everybody, but, for those that do. What's that like when you're able to put them on a nice, solid tax strategy?
I think the biggest thing I see is a little bit of shock and disbelief, because it's not like this is some hidden information. Mm-hmm. The problem is that our industry doesn't want advisors to give tax advice. So on the bottom of every statement, it says, don't talk to me about taxes, go talk to somebody else. The problem is in our industry, CPAs and enrolled agents and the block stores, the big chains and all that, they don't want to give tax planning advice. They want to put numbers on a page. They want to be great historians, put numbers on a page, but they don't actually want to take ownership of that advice. But when we're sitting down with people and showing them, look, you have these 5 houses that you've been renting out all these years and it's accumulated a lot of value, but you don't want to be a landlord anymore going into retirement and getting calls at 3:00 in the morning. Here's the solution on how to take care of selling of these houses and not having to pay all the taxes today. And it's not like you can only do one solution. It's not like it's just a 1031 exchange. There's opportunity zones. There's deferred sales trust. I mean, sitting down with people and showing them that, look, this big nest egg that you have, which is your business, Ryan and I, we've grown this huge business together. And at some point when I retire, I'm going to want to sell part of my interest in it. When Ryan retires, he's a kid now, but maybe 20, 30, 40 years from now, when he pulls the trigger, he's going to want to sell his. And I don't want to lose 20 to 30% to taxes any more than he does, any more than, our clients and our listeners want to do it. So there's so many choices on how to create. It's not just Roth conversions. I mean, Phil Knight can't do Roth conversions, but he does tax planning. I mean, he does some incredible tax planning. And so we have our Phil Knight approach where we want in, and for those of you who don't know who Phil Knight is, he founded Nike shoes. So we have our Phil Knight approach to estate planning. We have our Phil Knight approach to tax planning, because, you don't have to be a billionaire for tax planning to make sense. I don't care if you've saved $250,000, $500,000, or $5.7 million. You want your money for you. You do not want to be handing it over to those clowns. And I am serious when I say clowns. Those guys aren't interested in solving our problems. They're not interested in a comprehensive conversation, a constructive conversation on how to fix the deficit. They want these 30-second sound bites where the Republicans can blame the Democrats and the Democrats can blame the Republicans. And in the meantime, we just added billions and billions and trillions of dollars to the debt every year. I want to get off that stupid gerbil wheel that's just going, the hamster wheel that just keeps going round and round and round. You have an option. And I can't stress that enough. You have an option on how much you pay in taxes. You have an option on how to construct and set up your retirement plan to pay the least amount of taxes legally possible. And believe it or not, 0% tax brackets is a legitimate tax bracket to be in. And quite frankly, it's something that we strive for each and every one of our listeners. Sit down with Ryan and myself and our team. Let us show you how to create those income streams. Yes, that's important. Fees are important. Risk is important. Long-term care, estate planning. But folks, if we can save you 20 to 30% of your income every single year, if you're not sending that to the IRS, imagine how much more money you would have to do the things you want to do every single day. Imagine how much more money you could give to charity. Imagine how much more money you could leave as a legacy. Imagine how much less risk you could take if you weren't losing 20 to 30% to the income tax guy every single year.
The SavvyInvestorRadio.com, SavvyInvestorRadio.com front page, tax analysis button. That will get you a 15-minute phone conversation and get the ball rolling. Get started today on that tax strategy, that tax analysis with Mike, with Ryan, and the team at ProStatus, and here, of course, on the Savvy Investor Radio Show and Podcast. Now on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends. Mike, Ryan, you guys get the final word. Thank you.
This is Ryan Herbert. Thank you so much for listening to the Savvy Investor Radio Show and Podcast.
This is Mike Kinnett. We'll see you, the Savvy Investor, next week.
Advisory services offered through ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, a registered investment advisor. Insurance licensed in Maryland. ProStatus Financial Advisors Group, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if ProStatus Financial Advisors Group is licensed in your state, please call 410-863-1040. ProStatus Group, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through representatives of ProStatus Financial Advisors Group.